I'll give you $5 million if you can open the safe. The millionaire laughed, looking at the boy in worn-out sneakers. He didn't know he was betting against the wrong person, and that he was about to lose everything. Get out of the way, important people are coming through. Marcus Sterling yelled at Riley, who was wiping the lobby floor with a faded old cloth. The boy looked up, his dark eyes full of concentration, and quickly moved to the side, murmuring a barely audible, "Sorry, sir." Riley was only 11, but he already carried on his small shoulders a weight of responsibility no child should bear. His hands, cracked from water and cleaning products, worked tirelessly from early morning. His trousers had patches mended by his mother, Rose, who sewed every night, trying to maintain her son's dignity despite the poverty surrounding them. Marcus Sterling was the owner of Sterling Holdings, one of the biggest corporations in the Sydney CBD. At 45, he had built an empire based on property and technology. He wore watches that cost more than a new car and imported ties worth a month's salary of any of his employees. To him, people like Riley were simply part of the furniture objects that needed to be present but never visible. "Chloe," he called out to his secretary as he entered the main office. "How many times do I have to tell the cleaning crew not to loiter when I arrive?" Chloe Davis was 32 and had worked for Marcus for 6 years. She had learned to navigate his explosive temper and cutting remarks. "Mr. Sterling, the boy was just doing his job. He gets here at 6 a.m. to clean before the staff arrives." "And should I care?" Marcus replied dismissively, dropping his leather briefcase onto the desk. "I'm not interested in his life story. I just want him to do his job without me having to see him." What Marcus didn't know was that Riley wasn't an employee of the cleaning company. He was the son of Rose, who did work there, and had for the last 3 years. Rose was 35 and the sole provider for her household, since her husband, Brendan, had suffered an accident that left him unable to do heavy labor. Brendan now sold newspapers and keyrings at the traffic lights, earning barely enough to buy his medication. Riley accompanied his mother every morning because they had no one to leave him with. School had taken a back seat when his father's medical bills consumed all their savings. But the boy didn't just sit around waiting. He helped his mother with the cleaning tasks, carrying the buckets of water, organizing the products, sweeping the corridors, all with a dedication that contradicted his young age. "Mum," Riley whispered when Rose appeared with her cleaning trolley. "That man is angry again." Rose looked towards Marcus's office and sighed. "Don't worry, love. We just have to do our work well and stay out of trouble. Why does he treat us like that? We haven't done anything wrong. Some people, Riley, haven't learned that everyone deserves respect, but that doesn't mean we should be like them. Understand?" The boy nodded, though in his eyes there was a spark of something more. It wasn't resentment exactly, but a silent determination that Rose recognized because it was the same one she had when she decided never to give up, despite their circumstances. The day progressed normally, until a special messenger arrived at midday. He carried a large, heavy package, sealed with multiple security padlocks, and marked confidential everywhere. "Delivery for Mr. Marcus Sterling," the messenger announced at reception. Chloe signed the receipt documents and personally took the package to Marcus's office. It was a silver, portable safe with a sophisticated electronic panel on the front. Along with it came an envelope containing documentation. "What the blazes is this?" Marcus asked, tearing open the envelope. His expression changed from confusion to absolute surprise as he read. According to the documents, the safe contained bearer bonds valued at $5 million AUD. It was part of an unexpected inheritance from a distant uncle who had died without leaving a specific will. Marcus had been located as one of the possible heirs, but there was an unusual condition. The safe had a unique security mechanism. It required solving a series of mathematical and logical puzzles to open. There was no digital password or traditional combination. If anyone attempted to force it open, it would self-destruct along with its contents. The challenge was deliberate, the design of the eccentric uncle who believed only someone truly intelligent deserved the inheritance. "This is ridiculous," Marcus muttered as he examined the panel. There were numbers, mathematical symbols, and what looked like a complex equation that changed every time he touched a button. He called his team of executives. 3 men arrived quickly, all in expensive suits and with impressive university degrees. For an hour, they attempted to decipher the mechanism. They tried different combinations, searched for patterns, consulted the internet. Nothing worked. "There has to be a way," Marcus said repeatedly, hitting the desk in frustration. $5 million can't just be locked in there, with no way to get it out. "Sir," one of the executives suggested, "why don't we call a safe expert?" "I already tried," Marcus replied. The manufacturer says it's a customized, one-of-a-kind model. They don't have the tools to open it without destroying it. The news spread through the building like wildfire. Employees from all departments commented on the mysterious safe and the fortune it contained. Some discreetly approached Marcus's office, offering ideas that were immediately dismissed. "Do you think I'm stupid?" he yelled at them. "I've already tried all those basic options. This requires more than simple maths." Riley, meanwhile, had overheard part of the conversation while cleaning the nearby corridor. His natural curiosity led him to get a little closer when Marcus temporarily left to grab a coffee. Through the slightly ajar door, he could see the safe on the desk. The panel displayed a sequence of numbers that seemed to change following some kind of pattern. Riley, who had shown exceptional talent for maths before leaving school, felt something familiar in those numbers. It was like the puzzles his teacher used to give him when he could still attend class. "Oi, you!" A voice startled him. It was one of the executives who had seen the boy peering in. "What are you doing standing there? Don't you have work to do?" "Sorry, sir," Riley responded, lowering his gaze and quickly moving away with his cloth in hand. But his mind continued to process what he had seen. Prime numbers, Fibonacci sequences, maybe something related to geometry. His brain was automatically working on the problem, even as he swept the floor. Marcus returned to his office, increasingly frustrated. Several hours had passed, and none of his highly paid executives had been able to solve the puzzle. His pride was wounded. How was it possible that he, a successful businessman, couldn't access his own inheritance? "This is humiliating," he muttered, as his employees watched in silence. "All of you with your masters and diplomas, and none of you can solve a simple riddle." Chloe, who had been observing everything from her desk, dared to suggest, "Mr. Sterling, perhaps we should take a break for a moment. Sometimes the solutions come when we stop forcing them." "A break?" Marcus looked at her in disbelief. $5 million is in there, and you suggest I take a break? His frustration reached a critical point when the last of his executives admitted to being completely lost. Marcus, in a fit of anger mixed with desperation, made a decision that would change everything. He walked out of his office and into the common area where several employees had gathered, commenting on the situation. His presence immediately silenced everyone. "Listen up, everyone," he said in a loud, clear voice, ensuring every person on the floor could hear him. "I have a safe in my office that contains Uvisi marali tremustrema, Msikazama azanau, Idaino, LLS, L, Ikafor, Kopikor, Ewa, N, Alazai, Depra, you are, the Ziso, is work too bout, if you want to lay, N, Ulautia, Nu, N, non dali mi, Ivitaidua, Mainalagafone malicia, Vustata en ed, Eswema, Diza, Ekasta, F, M, Isen, Viblito, I, Dova ingdeste, X, Ienda levin, Lili la levin, Ondesis desfila, and decrosis a levin. C, I, Dan Mita, I, Paishukarto, Vata, Isa, Amarmala, Isa, into C, that is one. A, Egaim, V, yes, on peras, Isagulas, B, I, Amarana, Descora, Laftin descasis, Yeforta lastin descasis, I before, N, Indisa, Obawazena, B, L, even das for, in die stab. This one, these times, and if he knows, Isi zou een, blijvo, in this wow for. Ura, Iga, Ura, I. Vinfli, Van Isa, now, and 5 year, in the Risa, N, Vidos, thank you. Very sistored and descendant for the waif. This show, yes, grud, yes, is, asi, vilar de quantas, H, stapiyase, R, Ive, maga, Ive, is one of this tau. M, igeturigamizar. O, isi, F, Iwan, R, H, I, marki, uzet. P, example, Ayendi, my desk. Ianhala, to stayed. We have eta, Yefangandabi, in fornacer, D fora, and the sir. D. D. Grubo. R. A. Brenda 7. M. C. A. Whiteant. Isa. Away. Isa. Icola. C. Aleski. L. L. Andrima. Isinoko. Ida. I found. Indana vis done free. N. Ensustated I free. J. And a stingers. If you murd. Yesi taraleo. Fani tutaraleo. Fin. Dolan. Fin. Iverola. Isegan. N. Gay. A. Dista. H. Dizase. Yilika. Emeler. Thend. Indranta. Indranta. Midaranta. Indranta. Usanta. 8. Is a finder the slashin. They warned. L. Amdifora la kuma. Amdifora la kuma. Hevend. Dent. Eduan. Isvand. And to the mentioned. Isvantant. N. Indre. Isaran now. Isaran now. Isaran now. Isaran now. Awen biot. N. H. N as. Bis. Nos asi. Si. Ondaria. Abivitalaria. Bivitalaria. Bivitalaria. TM. M. And then play. Explanation. Conferent. N. Juvendau. Wes. Desanta tas fursa. Qualenda. Gusla. Discram. Indiscram. Is gomsing. L. G. I this is where. V. Velitua. Concrema zalidi. You can't assessed. And I don't like a. VDS read and a different. 5 million AUDD. None of me executive shavinable to openit. Sohere. Smiofer. He passed dramatically, enjoying the total attention commanded. I. Give 50,000 to anyone who can open it. $50,000. Cash. The reaction was immediate. Employees began to murmur excitedly, some already planning how they would spend the money. Marcus smiled with satisfaction, thinking he had found the perfect solution. But then he saw Riley standing in a corner with his cloth in hand, silently observing everything. And in that moment of absolute arrogance, Marcus decided to turn his offer into a cruel spectacle. In fact, he said, raising his voice even higher, I'll extend the offer. If even this boy can open it. He pointed directly at Riley. I'll give him $5 million. The full $5 million. The office erupted in laughter. It was obvious that Marcus was making a cruel joke, mocking the idea that a poor, grubby child could achieve what educated executives had failed to do. Imagine, Marcus continued, feeding off the laughter. A cleaning boy solving what mathematicians couldn't. It would be the joke of the century. Rose, who had heard everything from where she was cleaning the windows, felt her heart clench. She wanted to run to her son, protect him from the public humiliation. But Riley looked at her and gave a small nod, as if to say he was fine. Sir, Riley spoke in a clear yet respectful voice, surprising everyone. Are you serious? Marcus looked at him with a mixture of amusement and disdain. Of course I'm serious, kid. If you can open that safe, I'll give you everything inside. $5 million. And if you can't, then you'll keep cleaning floors, as you should be. Marcus responded with a cruel smile. Do you accept the deal? Riley looked at his mother, who had tears in her eyes, but nodded almost imperceptibly. The boy knew this could be the biggest humiliation of his life, but he also knew something no one else in the room did. He had seen the pattern in those numbers, and he believed he could solve it. I accept, Riley said, his voice firm. The office exploded in a mix of laughter and mocking comments. Employees took out their phones to record what they were sure would be an embarrassing moment to remember. Marcus practically laughed in the boy's face. Perfect, he exclaimed. I'm going to enjoy this. Chloe, bring the kid to my office. Let's watch the show. As Riley walked towards the office, his small hands clutched the cleaning cloth. His heart pounded quickly, but not from fear. It was excitement mixed with determination. He had spent so long being invisible, being treated as if he didn't matter. Now he had a chance to prove that intelligence had nothing to do with the money you had, or the clothes you wore. Marcus didn't know he was about to receive the most expensive and humiliating lesson of his entire life, that the boy he had scorned was about to change everything. The bet had been made, and nothing would ever be the same. Marcus's office had become a circus. Employees crowded at the door, craning their necks for a better view, while others recorded with their phones from every possible angle. The scene was so absurd that no one wanted to miss it. a boy in mended clothes, facing a high-tech safe that had defeated executives with university degrees. "Give the genius some room," Marcus said sarcastically, gesturing exaggeratedly for Riley to approach the desk. "We wouldn't want him to be distracted while he performs his magic." Laughter filled the room. Riley walked slowly, feeling the weight of all those eyes on him. Chloe watched from her desk with an expression that mixed pity and curiosity. Rose had stayed in the corridor, unable to enter, but also unable to walk away. "Well, maestro," Marcus continued, crossing his arms and leaning back in his leather chair. "You have all the time in the world, although I suppose cleaning floors hasn't given you much experience with advanced technology." Riley stood in front of the safe, ignoring the comments. His eyes fixed on the electronic panel. The numbers danced across the screen. 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17. It was exactly what he had thought, a sequence of prime numbers, but it didn't end there. "Given up already?" one of the executives asked from the doorway. "There's no shame in admitting this is too much for you." Riley didn't respond. His small finger, still showing traces of dirt under the nails despite having washed his hands, gently touched the screen. The numbers changed. 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. Fibonacci. His old maths teacher had taught him that sequence when he still attended school. "He's just pressing random buttons," someone scoffed. "This is going to end badly." But Chloe, who had a better view of the panel, noticed something different. The boy wasn't randomly pressing buttons. His movements were deliberate, calculated. There was a pattern to what he was doing. Marcus also began to notice it. His mocking smile faded slightly when he saw the absolute concentration on Riley's face. It wasn't the expression of someone lost and confused. It was the expression of someone solving a problem they understood. "Hold on a minute." Marcus leaned forward. "You actually know what you're doing?" Riley didn't answer. His eyes moved between different sections of the panel, identifying interwoven patterns. It wasn't just one sequence, but several working simultaneously. Prime numbers in one column, Fibonacci in another, and something else in the third that took him a moment to recognize. "Perfect squares," he murmured to himself. 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36. In his mind, Riley returned to the afternoons at his old school, when Mr. Fitzwilliam would stay after class to teach him mathematical riddles. "Mathematics is the universal language, Riley," the teacher would say. "It doesn't matter where you come from or what clothes you wear, numbers don't discriminate." That teacher had seen something special in him. He had filled out scholarship applications. He had talked to private school principals, but then came Brendan's accident, and all that had to take a back seat. "Hey," Marcus's voice broke his concentration. "I asked you a question. Do you know what you're doing, or are you just wasting my time?" "I'm working on it, sir," Riley replied without looking up from the panel. Marcus let out a short, nervous laugh. For the first time since he had launched his cruel bet, he felt a small pang of uneasiness. Surely the boy couldn't actually. No, it was impossible. It was just a stroke of luck that he had identified a few basic sequences. Riley pressed a series of numbers in a specific order. The panel emitted a soft ding, different from the error beeps it had been making when the executives tried. It was a confirmation tone. "What was that?" one of the employees asked. "Nothing. Another error for sure," Marcus replied, though his voice sounded less confident than before. Chloe moved a little closer, fascinated. She had worked in that office long enough to recognize when Marcus was nervous, and right now he was. His foot was tapping the floor repeatedly, a tic that only appeared when something made him anxious. Riley continued working. The panel now displayed a new layer of complexity. Geometric symbols, triangles, circles, squares, each with a number inside. It was a riddle within a riddle. "This is ridiculous." Marcus stood up from his chair. 10 minutes have passed. "Admit, you have no idea what you're doing, and let's end this." "Let him try," Chloe said softly. "You yourself gave him the time he needed." Marcus looked at her in surprise. Chloe never openly contradicted him, especially not in front of other employees, but something about the situation had prompted her to defend the boy. "Suit yourself." Marcus sat back down, crossing his legs in annoyance. "But this is a waste of time." Riley blocked out all the noise around him, the murmurs, the stifled laughter, the sarcastic comments. He focused solely on the panel. The geometric symbols corresponded to the numbers in specific ways. The triangle was 3 sides, the square 4. The circle represented infinity, or perhaps 0. He pressed the sequence: circle, triangle, triangle, square, triangle, following the pattern he had identified. Another confirmation tone resonated from the safe. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the people who had been laughing went quiet. Everyone had heard that distinct sound. "What's happening?" someone asked from the back. Marcus stood up so quickly that his chair rolled backwards. "It can't be. It's impossible." But the panel was changing. The red lights that had been blinking began to turn yellow. Riley had passed 2 security levels. Only one more remained. "Pure luck," Marcus said, but his voice trembled slightly. "There's no way a child." He stopped when he saw what appeared on the panel. The final phase wasn't pure mathematics. It was a logic puzzle combined with sequences. It required not just understanding numbers but thinking abstractly, connecting seemingly unrelated patterns. Riley read the riddle on the screen. John's father has 3 children. The first is named Monday. The second is named Tuesday. What is the name of the third? It was deceptively simple. Most people would say Wednesday, following the pattern of the days of the week. But Riley smiled slightly. The answer was in the question itself. "John," he said, quietly as he typed the name onto the panel. The safe emitted a series of mechanical clicks. The yellow lights turned green. The panel displayed a message, "Access granted." The room fell into a deathly silence. "No," Marcus whispered, the blood draining from his face. "No, no, no." Riley took a step back, looking at the safe that now showed its lock released. He didn't open it. He didn't touch anything else. He simply turned to Marcus. "I solved it, sir," he said in a calm voice. "You can check." Marcus approached the box as if in a trance. His hands trembled as he touched the handle. The door opened smoothly, revealing the interior packed with bearer bonds, exactly as the documents claimed. $5 million in negotiable certificates. The silence was broken by the sound of someone dropping their phone. Then another. The employees who had been recording everything were so shocked they forgot to hold their devices. "He did it," Chloe whispered, raising a hand to her mouth. "He really did it." Marcus stared blankly into the safe, his brain unable to process what had just happened. The boy he had publicly humiliated, the boy he had mocked, the boy he had treated as invisible for months, had just solved a riddle that not even his highest-paid executives could decipher. "This is cheating," he finally said, his voice hollow. "Someone told him the answers. It has to be." "Mr. Sterling," Chloe spoke firmly. "We were all here. No one told him anything. The boy solved it alone. Then it was luck. Pure blind luck." "Luck on 3 different levels of riddles?" asked one of the employees who had been watching closely. "Each level required different reasoning." "That's not luck." Riley remained still, watching Marcus crumble. He felt no joy or satisfaction, only a deep sadness at seeing an adult refuse to accept reality. Rose finally entered the office, tears streaming down her cheeks. She knelt beside her son and hugged him tightly. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered in his ear. "Mum, did I really do it?" Riley asked, as if he was only just processing what had happened. "You did, my love. You did." Marcus watched them, his mind racing at 1,000 miles per hour. He had made that bet in front of dozens of witnesses. Many of them had recorded it on video. He couldn't retract it now without completely destroying his reputation. "This doesn't count," he said desperately. "It was a joke. Nobody takes those kinds of bets seriously." "You said you were serious," Riley responded, looking him directly in the eyes. "I asked you twice, and you confirmed. You're a child. Contracts with minors aren't valid. But public promises are," Chloe intervened, "especially when there is video evidence." Marcus looked at her with betrayal. "Whose side are you on?" "The side of what's right," she replied without hesitation. "You made a public bet. The boy fulfilled his part. Now it's your turn to fulfill yours." The employees began to murmur among themselves. Some took out their phones again, this time not to record, but to review the videos they had taken. The evidence was there, clear and undeniable. Marcus slumped into his chair, burying his face in his hands. $5 million. It was more than some of his businesses made in a year. It wasn't an amount he could easily ignore or replace. "I need to talk to my lawyers," he finally said. "This can't be legal." "Mr. Sterling," said Mr. Neville, the senior accountant of the company who had been observing from the back of the room. He was a man of 60, respected by everyone, with an unshakable reputation for integrity. "With all due respect, you made a public bet, and the boy won it cleanly. If you try to back out now, you'll lose something much more valuable than money. Your word." Marcus looked up, gazing around the room. All his employees were watching him with a mixture of disappointment and expectation. He knew Mr. Neville was right. If he didn't keep his word, He would never have credibility in the business world again. "Give me time to think," he finally said. I need to process it." "Take all the time you need," Rose spoke for the first time, her voice firm despite the tears. "But my son fulfilled his part of the deal. We expect you to do the same." Mother and son withdrew from the office, followed by the stares of everyone present. When they left, conversations erupted. Employees debated what had just happened, the implications, how incredible it had been to witness that moment. Chloe approached Marcus, who remained motionless in his chair. "Sir, you need to make a decision soon. This is already being shared on social media." "What?" Several employees uploaded the videos. There are already thousands of views. People are asking what's going to happen, if you're going to keep your promise. Marcus felt as if the world was collapsing around him. Not only had he lost an impossible bet, but now it was public. Thousands of people were watching, waiting to see what kind of man he really was. Mr. Neville stayed after everyone else had left. "Marcus," he said, using his first name for the first time in years. "I know that boy and his mother. They've been working here for a long time. They are good people who have been through very difficult situations. And what does that matter? It matters because you have an opportunity to do something extraordinary, not just fulfill a promise, but change lives. Or you can be the man who humiliated a child and then denied him what he earned, fairly." Marcus didn't respond. He remained seated in his empty office, staring at the open safe, processing that an 11-year-old boy had just taught him the most humiliating lesson of his life. Outside in the corridor, Riley hugged his mother while she wept from a mixture of pride, fear, and hope. The bet had been won, but the real test was just beginning. Night had fallen over the city when Rose and Riley finally arrived at their small apartment in the outer suburbs. The bus ride had been silent. Both were still processing what had occurred. The cool night air contrasted with the suffocating heat Riley had felt in that office full of stairs. Brendan was waiting for them at the door, his face showing a mixture of worry and curiosity. He leaned on his cane, his right leg barely supporting his weight. "What happened?" "I was sent messages saying there were videos of Riley online." Rose hugged her husband, and for the first time since leaving the office, she allowed herself to cry without restraint. They weren't tears of sadness, but of an emotion so intense it needed to escape somehow. "Dad," Riley spoke in a small voice, "I solved a riddle that no one could solve." "What kind of riddle?" "One worth $5 million. Brendan looked at his wife for confirmation. Rose nodded, still unable to form coherent words. The father sank into the only chair they had in the tiny living room, the creak of the old wood echoing in the silence. "Tell me everything," he finally said. As Riley recounted the day's events, his voice gained confidence. He spoke about the prime numbers, about Fibonacci, about John's riddle. Brendan listened with eyes widening, recognizing something in his son that had always been there, but which circumstances had prevented them from cultivating. "I always knew you were special," Brendan said when Riley finished, his own tears beginning to form. "Your teacher, Mr. Fitz, used to tell me every time I saw him, 'This boy is going to be something big,' he'd repeat. But Dad, Mr. Sterling doesn't want to pay. He says it was a joke." "Then he is not a man of his word," Brendan replied with a firmness that surprised both of them. Despite his physical condition, his voice carried the authority of someone who had worked his whole life with dignity. But the truth always comes out. What none of them knew was that at that precise moment, the truth was exploding on the internet in ways they couldn't imagine. In his luxurious penthouse in the city center, Marcus Sterling couldn't sleep. The panoramic view of the city lights, which normally filled him with satisfaction, now seemed to mock him. Every illuminated window was like an eye judging him. His phone hadn't stopped ringing for hours, calls from business partners, messages from his family, incessant social media notifications. He had tried to turn it off, but the anxiety of not knowing what was happening was worse than facing reality. Finally, at 2 a.m., he gave up and opened his phone. What he saw left him frozen. The video had exploded. Not thousands of views, as Chloe had mentioned, but millions. The clip where he made the cruel bet with Riley had been viewed over 3 million times. The video of Riley opening the safe, 5 million. The comments were devastating. "This man is the definition of cruelty. That kid is a genius, and this guy just wants to humiliate him. If he doesn't keep his promise, he should face consequences. Does anyone know where this man works? We need justice." Marcus felt cold sweat running down his back. This was not just a personal reputation problem. It was a crisis that could destroy everything he had built. He dialed his lawyer's number, ignoring the time. Alistair White, his legal counsel for 15 years, answered in a sleepy voice. Marcus, it's 2 a.m. Alistair, this is an emergency. Did you see the videos? A long sigh came from the other side of the line. I saw them. The whole country saw them. I need legal options. There has to be some way to annul this. Marcus, listen to me carefully. Alistair's voice lost all trace of sleep and became serious. Technically, a public verbal bet, before witnesses and with video evidence, carries legal weight, especially when both parties fulfilled their part of the agreement. Both parties? He's a child who did exactly what you asked. He opened the safe. You promised $5 million if he did. There are witnesses. There is video. There is proof. Marcus walked to the window, looking at the sleeping city below. So, what do you recommend? As your lawyer, I tell you that paying is the least harmful option. As your friend, I tell you it's the right thing to do. $5 million, Alistair. It's not peanuts. I know, but the cost of not paying will be much greater. There are already online petitions calling for a boycott of your company. Clients asking if they want to do business with someone like this. Your reputation is worth more than $5 million. Marcus hung up without saying goodbye, something he had never done before. The glass wall in front of him reflected a man he didn't recognize, disheveled, with dark circles, defeated. His phone vibrated again. This time it was a message from his older sister, Jasmine, who lived in London and whom he respected more than anyone in the world. Marcus, I just saw the videos. What have you become? Mum would be ashamed. That sentence hit him harder than any internet comment. His mother had passed away 5 years ago, a humble woman who had cleaned houses to pay for his education. She had been like Rose, hardworking, dignified, self-sacrificing. For the first time in years, Marcus Sterling cried. At dawn the next day, the city woke up with the story on all the headlines. Millionaire humiliates genius boy and refuses to pay. Riley, the 11-year-old who solved the impossible. Justice for Riley. Thousands demand businessman keeps his word. At the school where Riley had studied, Mr. Fitzwilliam arrived early as always. A colleague stopped him in the hallway, showing him the video on his phone. Fitz, isn't that your student, Riley O'Connell? The teacher adjusted his glasses, looking at the screen. His eyes filled with tears when he saw his former student solving the riddles with the same concentration he showed in class. It's him, he whispered. I knew he was brilliant, but this is extraordinary. Why did he leave school? A talent like that? Family issues. His father had an accident. They needed money. I tried to get him scholarships, but the procedures are slow, and the need was urgent. The teacher sat down at his desk, an idea forming in his mind. He took his phone and started making calls. If that businessman wasn't going to do the right thing, he would make sure Riley received the opportunities he deserved in other ways. At Sterling Holdings, the atmosphere was tense from the moment the first employee arrived. Chloe had been one of the first to enter, encountering a crowd of journalists at the building's door. Is it true your boss humiliated a child? Is he going to keep his promise? Where is Mr. Sterling? She navigated through the cameras without commenting, but her heart was racing. She had never seen anything like it. The building reception looked like a media war zone. Mr. Neville was already in his office when she arrived. The accountant looked tired, as if he hadn't slept either. Chloe, this is out of control, he said, without preamble. I just received calls from 3 major clients asking if they should cancel contracts. The company's image is in total crisis, and all because of one man's arrogance. Do you think he'll pay? Mr. Neville sighed deeply. I've known Marcus for 20 years. He's proud, stubborn, sometimes cruel, but he's not stupid. Eventually, he'll see he has no choice. At 9 a.m., Marcus arrived at the building wearing dark glasses and a cap, trying to go unnoticed. It didn't work. The journalists surrounded him immediately. Mr. Sterling, are you going to keep your promise? What do you say to the people calling for a boycott of your company? Do you regret humiliating Riley? Marcus pushed his way inside without answering, the sound of camera flashes echoing like gunshots in his ears. His heart was pumping so hard he could feel it in his temples. When he reached his office, he found Mr. Neville waiting for him. We need to talk now. Marcus took off his glasses, revealing red, swollen eyes. Neville, please don't start. 3 clients canceled this morning. 5 others are re-evaluating their commercial relationship with us. Our subsidiary stocks are falling. Employees are scared of losing their jobs. Why? This is a personal bet. It has nothing to do with the company. It has everything to do with the company when your CEO is the face of that company. Mr. Neville dropped a folder onto the desk. These are projections from our public relations department. If you don't resolve this in 48 hours, we could lose up to 30% of our client base. Marcus opened the folder, his hands trembling. The numbers were terrifying, worse than any financial crisis he had faced. There's more, Mr. Neville continued. I received a call from the workers' union. They are considering a strike in solidarity with Riley. They say if you treat a child like that, how do you treat your employees? This is ridiculous. The world has gone mad. No, Marcus. The world is reacting to an obvious injustice. You publicly humiliated a vulnerable child. You bet something you didn't want to lose, and now you refuse to keep your word. People aren't fools. Marcus collapsed into his chair, staring at the safe that was still open on his desk. Those damned bearer bonds glistening under the morning light. You know what's the worst part? Mr. Neville asked, his voice softening. That boy, with every reason in the world to hate you, is not giving interviews. He's not talking bad about you. He's just waiting for you to keep your word. Meanwhile, at the small apartment of the O'Connell family, journalists were also camped outside, but Rose had flatly refused to let Riley talk to them. This is not a circus, she had said firmly when a reporter knocked on the door. My son is a child, not a spectacle. Rose's phone hadn't stopped ringing either, calls from TV shows wanting to interview Riley, lawyers offering free representation, even Hollywood producers asking about story rights. I don't know what to do, Rose confessed to Brendan while Riley slept in their small room. This is all too much. Let's keep things simple, Brendan replied, stroking his wife's hand. Marcus made a promise. Either he keeps it, or he doesn't. Everything else is noise. A different knock on the door startled him. It wasn't the aggressive knock of the journalists, but something softer, almost timid. Brendan opened it and found Mr. Fitzwilliam standing there with a folder under his arm. Professor? Rose approached, surprised. What are you doing here? I came to talk about Riley's future. The teacher entered when invited. I saw the videos. I saw what my student can do. They sat at the small kitchen table, the only flat surface in the apartment. Mr. Fitzwilliam opened his folder. I contacted 5 private educational institutions, 3 universities as well. They are all willing to offer Riley full scholarships if he returns to school. Rose covered her mouth with her hands, tears instantly welling up. But there's something else, Mr. Fitzwilliam continued. The National Institute of Technology wants to evaluate him. They think he might qualify for a special gifted student program. Gifted students? Brendan repeated. Children with exceptional cognitive abilities, maths, science, logic. Riley has the perfect profile. He could receive advanced education, mentoring with university professors, access to resources that normally only postgraduate students have. But that costs money, Rose said, her hope beginning to fade. We can't. The scholarships cover everything. Tuition, materials, even transport and food. If Mr. Sterling keeps his promise, Mr. Fitzwilliam let the phrase hang. If he keeps it, Brendan repeated bitterly. That's the problem, isn't it? Riley appeared at the door of his room, awakened by the voices. When he saw Mr. Fitzwilliam, his eyes lit up in a way Rose hadn't seen in years. Professor! Riley, lad, I'm so proud of you. Mr. Fitzwilliam stood up and hugged his former student. You demonstrated exactly what I always knew, that your mind is brilliant. Do you really think so? I know so. And I'm not the only one. There are many people who want to help you develop your talent. For the first time since the bet, Riley genuinely smiled. At 3 p.m., Marcus called an emergency meeting with all department heads. The conference room was full, the air thick with tension and rumors. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus began, his voice sounding tired. You are aware of the situation. I need to know the real impact on our operations. The head of HR spoke first. Sir, we've received 20 resignations just this morning. Employees saying they don't want to work for someone who treats children like that. The head of sales continued. We lost the contract with Garcia Distributors, $3 million annual value. They said they can't associate with our current image. The marketing director added, social media is against us. Hashtags like Justice for Riley and Sterling the Cruel are trending nationally. Some brands are removing our products from their catalogs. Each report was like a physical blow to Marcus. He observed the faces around the table. Some showed barely disguised satisfaction, others genuine concern. None showed the respect they usually had for him. Chloe, who had been silently taking notes, finally spoke. Mr. Sterling, with all due respect, there is an obvious solution to all of this. Which is? Publicly fulfill your promise, with humility. Turn this into a story of redemption instead of one of cruelty. Marcus looked at her for a long time. Are you telling me to publicly humiliate myself? I'm telling you to do the right thing, Chloe replied without lowering her gaze. Pride is not worth what you're losing. Mr. Neville stood up. Marcus, I'm going to tell you something that maybe no one else has the courage to say. Your mother cleaned houses so you could study. She worked on her knees scrubbing floors so you could wear a tie. And now you are looking down on a woman doing the exact same thing for her son. The silence in the room was absolute. No one dared to breathe. Rose is your mother 30 years ago, Mr. Neville continued. Riley is you at 11, with a talent that needs opportunity. The difference is that your mother found people who respected her. Are you going to be the one to take that opportunity away from another child? Marcus felt as if the air had been knocked out of his lungs. He had never made that connection. But now that Mr. Neville put it into words, it was impossible to ignore. I need time to think, he finally said, his voice barely a whisper. You don't have time, the finance manager intervened. 3 major contracts expire tomorrow. They all said they are waiting to see how you resolve this before signing. We're talking about $2 million at stake. Marcus looked up abruptly. $2 million? Yes. So, the real question is, are you going to lose $2 million for not paying $5 million? The irony was brutal and perfect. Marcus had bet $5 million thinking he would never lose. Now, losing that $5 million could save him $2 million. But beyond the numbers, something else began to weigh on his conscience. The image of his mother, on her knees cleaning floors. The image of Rose doing the exact same thing. The image of Riley with that brilliant talent hidden behind mended clothes and cracked hands. I want to talk to the boy, he finally said. Arrange a private meeting. Just him, his mother, and me. Chloe nodded. I'll try, sir, but I don't know if they'll accept. Let them know I want to apologize. Truly, for the first time in days, something akin to hope appeared on the faces of his employees. Maybe, just maybe, their boss wasn't completely lost. The question was, would it be enough, or was the damage already irreparable? Outside, the journalists were still waiting. The cameras were still recording. The world was still watching. And in a small apartment in the suburbs, an 11-year-old boy was simply waiting for an adult to keep his word. The meeting was scheduled for the following day at 5 p.m. in a neutral room, the office of the public notary, Mr. Ramon Vega, a 70-year-old man with an impeccable reputation in the city. Chloe had suggested the location so both parties would feel safe, away from the cameras and the media chaos. Rose had spent the previous night sleepless, tossing and turning in her small bed, while Brendan snored softly beside her. Should they trust Marcus? Was this another humiliation disguised as reconciliation? What if she took Riley, and things got worse? We have to go, Brendan had told her that morning as they ate bread with weak coffee. If we don't go, we'll always be left wondering what would have happened. Besides, Riley deserves to hear what that man has to say. Riley was unusually quiet as they prepared. He had put on his best-clothed trousers he only wore for special occasions, and a shirt Rose had ironed 3 times until it was perfect. The boy looked at himself in the small, cracked bathroom mirror, running his hands through his hair, trying to tame the rebellious curls. You look very handsome, my love, Rose told him from the doorway, her voice cracking slightly. Mom, do you think he really wants to apologize? Rose knelt in front of her son, taking his small hands in hers. I don't know, Riley, but what I do know is that no matter what happens today, you prove something no one can take away from you, that you are brilliant, brave, and worthy of respect. And if he doesn't keep his promise, then we move on. Mr. Fitzwilliam already got those scholarships. Your future doesn't depend on that man. It depends on you. Riley nodded. But Rose could see in his eyes that a part of him still hoped Marcus would do the right thing. That childish hope, that belief that adults eventually keep their word, broke Rose's heart because she knew the world didn't always work that way. Marcus arrived at the notary's office 30 minutes early, accompanied only by Mr. Neville. He had rejected the suggestion of bringing lawyers, public relations officers, or any other member of his team. This had to be personal. Notary Vega received them in his traditional office, with walls lined with legal books and a mahogany desk that had belonged to his grandfather. The smell of old paper and ink filled the space, mixing with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee that Vega always kept ready. Mr. Sterling, the notary greeted him with professional courtesy, but no warmth. I hope this meeting is productive. That is my wish too, Marcus replied, his voice sounding more humble than Mr. Neville had ever heard him. Marcus looked different. He had slept barely 3 hours in 2 days, and it showed. Deep dark circles, unshaven beard, wrinkled suit. He was not the image of the immaculate businessman he always projected. He was simply a man exhausted and defeated. "I have prepared a document," Vega said, showing several papers, "so that if you reach an agreement, everything is formally registered. That way, we avoid future misunderstandings." Marcus nodded, although every word from the notary reminded him of the magnitude of what he had done. A formal agreement with an 11-year-old boy because he had been so arrogant that legal protection was needed against him. The sound of the main door startled him. It was exactly 5 o'clock. Rose, Brendan, and Riley had arrived. When the two families met in the notary's conference room, the tension was so thick it could almost be touched. Riley stood slightly behind his mother, his dark eyes observing Marcus with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Brendan leaned on his cane, his jaw clenched. He wanted to hate the man who had humiliated his son, but the expression on Marcus's face confused him. He didn't see arrogance now. He saw something akin to shame. "Thank you for coming," Marcus said, his voice hoarse. "I know you have no reason to trust me." "No, we don't," Brendan replied directly. "You humiliated my son in front of dozens of people. You made a cruel bet, thinking you'd never lose. And when you lost, you tried to backtrack." Marcus lowered his gaze, unable to hold Brendan's eyes. "You are completely right." "Then why are we here?" Rose asked, her voice firm despite the nervousness she felt. "Because I need to tell you something I should have said days ago." Marcus looked up, and to everyone's surprise, his eyes were moist. "I am sorry. I ask for your forgiveness to Riley, to you, Rose, to your family. What I did was unforgivable." The silence that followed was interrupted only by the ticking of the antique clock on the notary's wall. Riley took a step forward, surprising his mother. "Why did you do it? Why were you so mean to me?" The question, asked with a child's brutal honesty, hit Marcus harder than any adult accusation. "Because I'm a man who forgot where he came from," Marcus replied, his voice cracking. "My mother cleaned houses, Riley, exactly like your mum. She worked on her knees so I could study, and somewhere along the way, when I became successful, I forgot all that. I started to see people like your mother as less important, as if their work defined their value." Rose felt tears forming in her eyes. She had never expected to hear those words. "When I saw you that day," Marcus continued, speaking directly to Riley, "I only saw a child who was in the way. I didn't see a person with dreams, with talent, with a family who loves him, and that says something terrible about who I had become." "And now?" Riley asked. "Now do you see me? Now I see a boy who is smarter than all my executives put together. I see someone who taught me the most important lesson of my life. That character has nothing to do with the money you have or your social position." Mr. Neville, who had been observing in silence, felt a lump in his throat. In 20 years of friendship, he had never seen Marcus so vulnerable. Notary Vega gently cleared his throat. "Mr. Sterling, do you wish to formalize an agreement?" Marcus slowly stood up, walked to his briefcase, and pulled out a large envelope. His hands trembled slightly as he placed it on the table in front of Riley. "These are the bearer bonds," he said. $5 million AUD. Just as I promised. They are yours. No conditions, no tricks, no small print. Riley looked at the envelope as if it were an alien object. Rose covered her mouth with both hands, tears flowing freely. Brendan now had to sit down, his bad leg trembling with emotion. "But there's something else I want to do," Marcus continued. He pulled out another document from his briefcase. "I contacted the National Institute of Technology. I want to establish a full educational fund for Riley, not just for high school, but for university, master's, PhD, whatever he wants to study. All paid for." "Why?" Rose asked, her voice barely a whisper. "You're already giving us the $5 million. You don't have to do anything else." "Yes, I do," Marcus replied firmly. "Because I saw the videos of people commenting on your son. I saw teachers saying he's a genius. I saw the potential I was about to look down on, and I want to make sure that talent isn't wasted for lack of resources." "That's very generous," Brendan said, still processing everything. "But why should we trust you?" "You shouldn't," Marcus admitted. "That's why Notary Vega is going to legally register everything. The educational fund will be in an independent trust administered by Mr. Fitzwilliam and 2 institute representatives. I will have no control over the money, only the obligation to keep it funded." The notary nodded. "I can confirm I have reviewed the documents. They are legally binding and irrevocable." Riley looked at Marcus with an expression the businessman couldn't decipher. It wasn't gratitude exactly, but something more complex. It was a child processing how an adult could be so cruel, and then so generous. Mr. Sterling, Riley spoke in a clear voice. Are you really sorry? Or are you just afraid of what people are saying? The question was devastatingly direct. Everyone in the room stood still, waiting for the answer. Marcus knelt down to Riley's height, something he would never normally do. Both, he admitted with brutal honesty. I am afraid of losing my company like this, but I am also truly sorry because I saw videos of my mother in old photos cleaning houses and realized I was treating you like others probably treated her, and that broke my heart. Your mum cleaned houses too? Riley asked, his hostility beginning to soften. Yes, for 20 years, so I could study and have a better life. And you forgot that? I forgot, and it was the biggest mistake of my life. Riley looked at his mother for guidance. Rose nodded almost imperceptibly, giving him permission to make his own decision. I accept your apology, Riley finally said. And I accept the money because you promised, and we need it. But I want you to know something. What is it? That I will never forget where I come from. No matter how much money I have, I will always remember that my mum cleaned floors and my dad sold keyrings at the lights, because they taught me that honest work is dignified, no matter what it is. Riley's words echoed in the room like chimes. Marcus felt tears streaming down his cheeks, no longer ashamed to hide them. You are wiser at 11 than I am at 45, he said, his voice broken. I wish I could go back in time and treat you with the respect you deserved from the beginning. You can't go back in time, Riley replied, with a maturity that contradicted his age. But you can do things right from now on. Rose finally approached the table, taking the envelope with trembling hands. Inside were the bonds, each certified and validated. $5 million. More money than they had seen in their entire lives combined. This is going to change our lives, she murmured, barely able to believe it was real. It already has. Mr. Neville spoke for the first time. It changed everything for everyone present. Notary Vega began to prepare the final documents. There were contracts to sign, certifications to validate, seals to stamp. The process took almost an hour, during which the two families remained in the room, the air gradually lightening of tension. Rose, Marcus spoke as they waited for the notary to finish. I want to offer you something else. More? Rose looked at him with recovered suspicion. A real job at my company, not cleaning, but in human resources, as an employee well-being advisor. Someone who ensures workers are treated with dignity. Rose blinked in confusion. But I don't have the education for that. You have something better than education. Experience. You know what it feels like to be invisible, to be looked down on. That makes you perfect for the position, and we will pay for any training you need. Brendan squeezed his wife's hand. It's your decision, love. Rose looked at Marcus for a long time, searching for signs of deceit or manipulation. But what she saw was sincerity. Tired, imperfect, but real. I'll think about it, she finally said. But if I accept, it will be because I want to do that job well, not out of charity. I wouldn't expect any less, Marcus replied. When the documents were finally ready, the notary presented them one by one. Transfer of bonds. Establishment of the educational trust. Terms of Rose's potential employment. Everything signed, sealed, certified. It's done, Vega announced. Everything is official and legally binding. Riley was now officially the owner of $5 million. His education was guaranteed to whatever level he wished to reach. His mother had a real job offer that could change her family's trajectory. May I say something? Mr. Neville asked for permission. When everyone nodded, he continued. I have worked with Marcus for 20 years. I have seen him at his worst moments and his best, but I have never seen him learn a lesson as important as this. What lesson? Riley asked. That true success is not measured in money, but in how we treat people, especially those who cannot defend themselves. Marcus nodded, unable to speak due to the lump in his throat. When they left the notary's office, the sun was beginning to set, painting the sky with oranges and pinks. Outside, a small group of journalists were still waiting, but they kept a respectful distance thanks to the security guards Vega had hired. Are you going to make statements? One of the reporters shouted. Marcus looked at Rose, who nodded. Together, with Riley between them, they walked toward the cameras. Justice was done today, Marcus told the microphones. I fulfilled my promise to Riley and his family, but more importantly, I learned that I had forgotten my roots and lost my moral compass. That boy taught me more in 1 week than I learned in 20 years of business. How do you feel, Riley? A reporter asked. Riley thought for a moment before answering. I'm happy that he kept his word, and I hope other adults also learn to keep their promises. The cameras captured that moment, an 11-year-old boy standing between his family and a repentant businessman, teaching the world about integrity. That night, the videos of the reconciliation went even more viral than the original humiliation. But this time, the comments were different. Faith in humanity restored. This child is the future of our country. Marcus Sterling showed that people can change. Rose and Brendan raised an exceptional son. In their small apartment, the O'Connell family sat together at their only table, the bonds safely stored in an envelope Rose had hidden in the safest place she knew inside their mattress. "What are we going to do with all that money?" Brendan asked, still processing. "First, pay all our debts," Rose said practically. "Second, get a better place to live. Third, make sure Riley has everything he needs to study. And after that?" Riley asked. "After that, live with dignity, without ever forgetting where we came from," Rose said. "As I promised Mr. Sterling," Riley added. "Exactly as you promised." In his penthouse, Marcus looked at the city lights, but this time with different feelings. He had lost $5 million. He had almost lost his company. He had been publicly humiliated. But he had gained something he didn't know. He needed a second chance to be the person his mother had raised. The person who respected honest work, who valued character over money, who understood that everyone deserves dignity. His phone rang. It was his sister, Jasmine, from London. "I saw the videos today," she said. "Mum would be proud." Those 4 words were worth more than any fortune. The story had taken a turn no one expected, but it wasn't over yet. The real impact of everything that had happened was just beginning to reveal itself. The dawn arrived differently for the O'Connell family. For the first time in years, Rose woke up without the knot of anxiety in her stomach, wondering how they would pay the bills that month. The sunlight came through the small window of their apartment, but everything seemed brighter, as if the world itself had changed color. Brendan was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, looking at the documents the notary had given them. His hands, calloused from years of hard work, trembled slightly as he turned the pages over and over, as if he needed to confirm that everything was real. "Couldn't sleep?" Rose approached, placing a hand on his shoulder. "I was thinking about everything we can do now," Brendan replied, his voice full of contained emotion. "Surgery for my leg, getting a place where Riley has his own room, buying medicines without having to choose which illness to treat this month." Rose sat beside him, intertwining her fingers with his. "We're going to do all that, but slowly, with wisdom. Do you know what excites me the most?" Brendan looked at her with bright eyes. "That Riley will have the opportunities we never had. He'll study, he'll develop that incredible talent he has. He's going to be something big." "He already is something big," Rose corrected gently. "Yesterday he taught a millionaire what it means to have dignity. That's already bigger than any university degree." Riley appeared at the door of his small room, still in his pajamas, hair messy from sleep. "Mum, Dad, did everything from yesterday really happen, or did I dream it?" Rose extended her arms, and her son ran into them. The 3 hugged in the tiny kitchen, letting the tears of relief and happiness flow freely. "It really happened, my love," Rose whispered against her son's hair. "And now everything is going to change." In the weeks that followed, the change was evident on multiple fronts. The O'Connell family moved to a modest but respectable apartment in a safe suburb. It wasn't a palace, but it had 3 bedrooms, reliable hot water, and a small area where Riley could study without sharing space with everyone else. On moving day, Riley couldn't stop running from room to room, amazed to have his own space. "Mum, look, I have a desk," he shouted from his new room, where Rose had placed a simple wooden desk and a lamp for homework. Brendan underwent the surgery he had needed since the accident. The procedure was successful, and although he still required physical therapy, the doctors assured him he would eventually walk without a cane. The first time he took unsupported steps with Rose and Riley watching, all 3 cried with joy. Rose accepted the position at Sterling Holdings, but not before setting clear conditions. "I don't want special treatment," she had told Marcus in their first formal meeting. "I want to do real work, learn genuinely, and earn the respect of the employees." "I wouldn't expect anything less," Marcus had replied, and this time his smile was genuine. Rose's first day in her new role was intimidating. She arrived 2 hours early, checking the professional outfit she had bought with part of the money, over and over, a simple but smart suit, comfortable but formal shoes. Chloe welcomed her with a warm smile. "Welcome to the team, Rose, but now as a colleague, not as cleaning staff." "I still find it hard to believe," Rose admitted. "Believe it, and get ready, because Marcus wants you to supervise an important project." The project turned out to be the creation of a well-being program for all entry-level employees. Better hours, subsidized healthcare, training opportunities. Rose worked alongside HR specialists, contributing the invaluable perspective of someone who had been on the other side. "We need to include support for single parents," she suggested in one meeting, remembering the times she had to choose between going to work or looking after Riley when he was sick. "Excellent point," the head of HR noted. "What else have you observed that we could improve?" To Rose's surprise, her voice mattered. Her ideas were listened to, implemented, valued, not out of charity, but because they had real merit. Riley, for his part, started the Gifted Student Program at the National Institute of Technology. The first day was overwhelming. The other children in the program came from affluent families with parents who were university professors or scientists. Riley was the only one who had learned advanced maths while helping his mother clean offices. "I don't belong here," he told Rose that night with tears of frustration. "The other kids talk about books I've never read, places I've never visited." Rose sat next to him on his new bed, stroking his hair. "Riley, who opened a safe that executives with master's degrees couldn't open." "Me," the boy murmured. "And who taught those arrogant adults about humility and dignity?" "May, then you do belong there. You just have different experiences, not inferior ones. Your experiences make you unique." Mr. Fitzwilliam, who now formally supervised Riley's education as part of the trust, constantly reinforced that message. "Your perspective is valuable precisely because it is different," he told him. "You see problems that others don't because you have lived realities they only read about in books." Gradually, Riley began to find his place. When a classmate struggled with algebra, Riley explained it using real-life examples, not abstract formulas. When social problems were discussed in class, Riley provided insights that only someone who had experienced poverty could give. "It's fascinating to work with him," the program director told Mr. Fitzwilliam during an evaluation. "He has exceptional mathematical intelligence, yes, but also an emotional intelligence we rarely see in children his age. He's had to grow up fast." "Adversity can destroy or strengthen," Mr. Fitzwilliam replied with contained pride. In Riley's case, it strengthened him. Marcus, meanwhile, faced his own transformation. The media crisis had turned into an unexpected opportunity for real change. After fulfilling his promise to Riley, he began to examine all his company's practices with new eyes. "How much do we pay the cleaning staff?" he asked in an executive meeting, surprising everyone with the question. "The legal minimum wage," the head of HR replied. "And do you think that's enough to live with dignity?" An uncomfortable silence filled the room. No one had questioned that before. "I want you to review the wages of all entry-level employees," Marcus ordered. "Cleaning, security, maintenance, cafeteria, everyone. And I want to raise them to a level where a person can support a family without having to work 3 jobs." "Sir, that will cost millions," protested the finance director. "And we're going to do it anyway. Budget for the increase next quarter." Mr. Neville, observing from his usual spot, smiled discreetly. The man he had known 20 years ago was returning, but improved by the lessons learned. News of the change at Sterling Holdings spread quickly. Other companies began to question their own practices. Some did it genuinely, others just for public relations, but the effect was the same. The national conversation about workplace dignity and fair wages had been reignited. Marcus was invited to give a talk at a business leadership conference. He accepted, nervous but determined to share what he had learned. "For 20 years, I built an empire." He began his presentation to hundreds of business owners, but I forgot to build my humanity. An 11-year-old boy reminded me of something my mother taught me decades ago, that every person deserves respect, regardless of their job or bank account. The audience listened in absolute silence. When I humiliated Riley O'Connell, I didn't just disrespect him, I disrespected his mother, who works harder than I have ever worked. I disrespected all the honest workers who keep our businesses running, and I disrespected myself, forgetting where I came from. His voice cracked slightly, but he continued. "I share this not to clean up my image, but because I believe many of us have forgotten the same lesson. It's easy to look at numbers on spreadsheets and forget that every number represents a person with a family, dreams, dignity." After the conference, several business owners approached him, some to criticize him for weakness, others to thank him for expressing what they too had begun to feel. "My grandfather started as a factory worker," one CEO confessed. "I built this company on his sacrifice, but at some point, I forgot that. Your story reminded me that I need to reconnect with those values." One afternoon, Chloe knocked on Marcus's office door with a serious expression. "Sir, there's someone here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment, but I think you should receive him." "Who is it?" "Riley O'Connell." Marcus stood up immediately. "Send him in." Riley entered the office, now dressed in the Institute of Technology uniform, carrying a backpack full of books. He looked different from the last time he had been there, more confident, happier, but still with that humility that characterized him. "Mr. Sterling," he greeted formally. "I hope I'm not bothering you." "Not at all, Riley. Please sit down. Can I get you anything to drink?" "No, thank you. I just came to drop something off." The boy pulled out a carefully organized folder from his backpack. Inside was a school project, a complex mathematical analysis on resource distribution in corporations. "I did this project on your company," Riley explained. "My teacher asked me to analyze a real organization, and I thought of Sterling Holdings." Marcus skimmed the project, impressed by the depth of the analysis. "This is incredibly detailed. I found some areas where efficiency could be improved." Riley pointed to certain pages, especially in the budget distribution for employee training. "Using the mathematical models I learned, I calculated that investing 15% more in training could increase productivity by 25% in 2 years." Marcus read the projections, fascinated. The analysis was sophisticated, backed by solid data and impeccable mathematics. "Can I keep this?" he asked. "I'd like to show it to my strategic planning team." "That's why I brought it," Riley smiled. "I thought maybe it would be useful." "Riley." Marcus closed the folder, looking directly at the boy. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Sûr." "Did you really forgive me? Or did you just say yes because it was the polite thing to do?" Riley thought carefully before answering with that maturity that continued to surprise everyone. "At first, I didn't know if I had forgiven you. I was confused and hurt. But my mum told me something important." "What did she tell you?" "That forgiving doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It means choosing not to let it make you bitter. You hurt me, yes, but you also kept your word and are trying to be better. That deserves recognition. You are wiser than most adults I know." "I just learned from good people," Riley shrugged. "My mum, my dad, Mr. Fitzwilliam, they taught me that everyone makes mistakes. The important thing is how we respond afterwards." Marcus felt the familiar sting of tears, but he was no longer ashamed of them. "Thank you, Riley, for giving me a second chance to do things right." "Thank you for taking it." When Riley left, Marcus stayed staring at the project on his desk. An 11-year-old boy had done an analysis that reviled consultants who charged millions. But more than that, that boy had taught him something no consultant ever could. That true leadership doesn't come from authority, but from character. The story was far from over, but it had already changed lives in ways no one could have predicted. The months transformed not only the people directly involved, but the entire community. The story of Riley and Marcus had become something bigger than themselves, a symbol that genuine change was possible. The well-being program Rose helped design became a model for other companies. Business magazines wrote articles about the Riley effect, as they began to call it. The idea that treating employees with dignity was not only morally correct, but economically smart. "Turnover rates are down 40%. Mr. Neville showed Marcus the quarterly reports. "Productivity is up. And look at this, job applications have tripled. People want to work for a company that values them, all thanks to a child who taught me what I had forgotten," Marcus replied. Looking out the window at the city he once dominated with arrogance, and now tried to serve with humility. At the Institute of Technology, Riley not only excelled academically, but had become a mentor to other students. When a new student arrived, a timid boy from a low-income family, Riley was the first to approach him. "Is it your first day?" he asked with genuine kindness. The boy nodded nervously. "I don't know if I should be here. Everyone seems so smart. I thought the same when I arrived." Riley sat down next to him. "You know what I learned? That being smart has nothing to do with where you come from. It has to do with never stopping learning. Besides, everyone here is learning. No one was born knowing differential equations." Mr. Fitzwilliam watched the scene from his office door with a proud smile. Riley had not only developed his extraordinary mathematical talent, but had maintained that humility and empathy that made him special. During a school ceremony where Riley received recognition for academic excellence, he asked permission to say a few words. With the auditorium full of students, parents, and teachers, the 11-year-old boy stood in front of the microphone. "This award is important to me," he began, his voice firm despite his nervousness, but not for the reasons everyone thinks. The auditorium fell silent. "It's not important because it proves I'm smart. It's important because it proves that where you come from doesn't determine where you can go." Riley looked for his parents in the audience. Rose had tears streaming down her cheeks. Brendan held her hand. standing without his cane for the first time at a school ceremony. A while ago, my mum cleaned floors so I could eat. My dad sold keyrings at the lights to buy medicine, and I helped them, because that's what families do. They support each other. Several parents in the audience looked at each other, some with uncomfortable expressions as they recalled their own prejudices. Someone humiliated me for that, Riley continued without bitterness, only pure honesty. He made me feel small because my clothes were patched and my hands were dirty from cleaning, but that experience taught me something valuable. What did it teach you? A child from the audience asked, breaking protocol, but voicing what everyone wanted to know. It taught me that dignity doesn't come from the outside, it comes from the inside. My mum always had dignity, even when she was on her knees cleaning. My dad always had dignity, even when people passed him by without seeing him. And I always had value, even when others couldn't see it. The auditorium erupted in applause. It was not the polite applause of school ceremonies, but something deeper, the recognition of a truth that resonated with everyone. When Riley stepped off the stage, he was intercepted by the institute director. That was the most impactful speech I've heard in 30 years of education, she told him with bright eyes. Can I share it on our official channels? Only if you promise that the message reaches other children who think they aren't enough, Riley replied. I promise. The video of Riley's speech went viral again, this time for reasons completely different from the first ones. The comments were overwhelmingly positive. This kid is 11 and has more wisdom than most adults. His mum and dad raised an exceptional human being. I cried when he talked about dignity. My mother also cleaned houses. We need more stories like this in the world. Marcus watched the video in his office, and for the umpteenth time since meeting Riley, he cried. But these were different tears, not of shame or regret, but of deep gratitude for having had the opportunity to learn from someone so special. Chloe entered his office and found him wiping his eyes. Did you see Riley's video? I saw it. That child is extraordinary. He is. And in part, he's extraordinary because you gave him the opportunity to shine. No, Marcus corrected her. I almost destroyed that opportunity. It was his mother, his father, Mr. Fitzwilliam, and above all his own character that made him shine. I was just lucky that he taught me something in the process. But you learned and changed. That counts too. Marcus thought for a moment. Chloe, I want to do something more. What is it? I want to create a foundation for children like Riley. Children with extraordinary talent but no resources. I don't want anyone else to have to wait for an arrogant businessman to make a cruel bet to get their opportunity. Chloe smiled widely. That would be incredible. What would you call it? The Dignity Foundation. Because that's what I learned, that everyone deserves the opportunity to develop their potential with dignity. On a special afternoon, Marcus invited the O'Connell family to his office for a meeting. But when they arrived, they found the conference room full of people. Mr. Neville, Chloe, Mr. Fitzwilliam, company employees, even a few reporters. What's going on? Rose asked, confused. I wanted everyone to be here for this announcement, Marcus explained, because you were all part of this transformation. He pressed a button on the remote, and a presentation appeared on the big screen, the Dignity Foundation. With the support of Mr. Fitzwilliam and supervision from Mr. Neville, we have created an educational foundation, Marcus began to explain. Its mission is to identify and support children with exceptional talent who lack economic resources. The presentation showed the complete plan: school scholarships, mentorship programs, comprehensive family support. But there's something else, Marcus continued, looking directly at Riley. We need a youth director for the foundation, someone who understands what these children are living because he lived it himself. Someone who can be an example and a mentor. A youth director? Riley asked, confused. You, Riley. We want you to be the face of this foundation, to tell your story, to help identify other brilliant children, to show them that change is possible. Riley looked at his parents for guidance. Rose had her hands over her mouth, crying again. Brendan nodded vigorously, his own tears falling freely. But I'm 11 years old, Riley pointed out the obvious. And that's exactly what makes your perspective valuable, Mr. Fitzwilliam intervened. Children will trust you in a way they would never trust adults. You don't have to decide now, Marcus added. Take all the time you need, but I want you to know that your story has already changed many lives. Imagine how many more you could impact. That night, in their apartment, which was no longer small or desperate, but warm and full of hope, the O'Connell family sat together in the living room. What do you think, son? Brendan asked Riley. I think it's a lot of responsibility, Riley admitted. But I also think about all the kids who are where I was cleaning with their mums, feeling invisible, believing they aren't enough. "And what do you want to tell them?" Rose asked softly. "That they are enough. That their value doesn't depend on their clothes or their money. That intelligence and talent can be anywhere, even in places where people don't think to look." Brendan hugged his son. "Then you know your answer." "Yes, I want to do it. I want to help." The official launch of the Dignity Foundation was an event that captured national attention. The hall was packed with business owners, educators, community leaders, and media. But the most impactful moment came when Riley took the podium. "My name is Riley O'Connell," he began, his voice amplified by the microphones, but his message amplified by authenticity. "And months ago, I was cleaning floors in a corporate building." He narrated his story without unnecessary drama, only with pure honesty. He spoke about his mother working tirelessly, his father selling keyrings despite the pain, his own struggle to maintain hope when everything seemed impossible. "Someone humiliated me," he said, without naming Marcus directly. But that humiliation turned into opportunity, not because humiliation is good, but because people can choose to learn and change. Marcus, sitting in the front row, felt every word as a reminder of how far he had come and how far he still had to go. "This foundation exists so that other children don't have to wait for a humiliation to get their chance," Riley continued. "It exists to tell them that their talent matters, their future matters. They matter." The applause was deafening. But more important than the applause were the tears on the faces of mothers who cleaned houses, fathers who worked in construction, children who saw themselves in Riley's story. After the event, a woman approached Rose timidly. "Mrs. O'Connell, I clean houses too. My son is 10 and he's very good with numbers. Can this foundation really help him?" Rose took the woman's hands in hers. "Yes, it really can. Give me his details. I will personally make sure he gets evaluated." Because Rose had accepted another role in the foundation: Community Outreach Coordinator. Who better than someone who had lived that reality to connect with families who were living it now? One quiet afternoon, Riley and Marcus met again in the office where everything had begun. The safe was still there, now empty, but kept as a reminder. "You know what's the most ironic thing of all?" Marcus asked Riley. "What is it?" "That I bet $5 million, thinking it was impossible for me to lose. I lost those $5 million, but I gained something worth much more." "What did you gain?" "I gained my humanity back. I gained the respect of my employees. I gained purpose. And I gained a friend who constantly teaches me how to be a better person." Riley smiled. "I gained important things too." "Like what?" "I learned that justice sometimes does exist. I learned that people can change if they really want to. And I learned that my voice matters, even when I'm the smallest one in the room." "Your voice always mattered, Riley. I was just too arrogant to listen to it at first." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, looking out the window at the city spreading below. "Mr. Sterling," Riley broke the silence, "there's something I never asked you." "What is it?" "What would have happened if I hadn't been able to open the safe? Would you really have humiliated me more?" Marcus sighed deeply. "Honestly, I don't know. The man I was at that moment probably would have. But I'm glad I didn't have to find out, because by losing that bet, I gained the opportunity to become someone better." "Everyone deserves second chances," Riley said with wisdom that belied his 11 years. "Yes, and thank you for giving me mine." The first anniversary of the day Riley opened the safe was commemorated in a special way. The Dignity Foundation had awarded full scholarships to 50 children in its first year. 23 companies had adopted the Sterling Holdings labor well-being model. Rose had helped 30 families access educational resources, and Riley, now 12, was still the same humble boy, but with a confidence that came from knowing who he was and where he came from. At the anniversary ceremony, he was asked to say the final words. He climbed onto the podium, looked at his mother and father in the audience, at Marcus, who watched him with paternal pride, at Mr. Fitzwilliam, who had supported him from the beginning. "A year ago," Riley began, "a man offered me $5 million if I could open a safe. He thought he was playing a cruel joke. He didn't know he was opening something much more important." He paused, letting his words resonate. "I didn't just open a safe that day. I opened a conversation about dignity, about respect, about the value of every person, regardless of their job or background. And that conversation changed lives, including mine. I learned that the real treasure was never in those bearer bonds. The real treasure is in the opportunities I now have, in the education I receive, in knowing that my family is well, in being able to help other children have the same opportunities." Riley looked directly at the cameras broadcasting live. "To every child watching me, if someone makes you feel small because of your clothes, your home, or your parents' work, I want you to remember something. Your value is not defined by another person. It is defined by you, by your actions, your character, your heart. To every adult watching me, never underestimate someone based on appearance. The next genius, the next leader, the next person to change the world might be cleaning your office, selling keyrings on the street, or serving your coffee. Treat them with the dignity they deserve. Tears streamed down faces throughout the auditorium. And finally, Riley concluded, his voice firm and clear. I want to thank the person who, unintentionally, gave me the opportunity to show who I am. Mr. Sterling, thank you for keeping your promise. But more importantly, thank you for having the courage to change. You taught me that it's never too late to be the person we should have been from the beginning. The auditorium rose in a standing ovation. Marcus cried openly, unashamed, as he applauded the boy who had transformed his life. Rose hugged Brendan, both crying tears of joy, pride, and gratitude for the impossible path that had brought them to this moment. Mr. Neville, from his seat, thought about how an 11-year-old boy had done more to change corporate culture than decades of consultants and seminars. Mr. Fitzwilliam smiled, knowing his intuition about Riley's talent had been correct, but that the boy had surpassed even his highest expectations. And in homes across the country, mothers who cleaned houses hugged their children tighter. Fathers who worked humble jobs sat up straighter. Children who felt invisible began to believe that maybe, just maybe, they too had value. Because if a boy in mended clothes could open a safe that defeated executives, if he could teach humility to a millionaire, if he could change the national conversation about dignity and respect, then anything was possible. And that was the true fortune Riley found that day. Not $5 million, but the understanding that his voice mattered, his story had power, and his existence made a difference in the world. The safe had only been the beginning. The real treasure was the change it generated in hearts, minds, and lives.